Legislature has the ability to protect women and their unborn children. The court shouldn't be stepping on that.
Welcome back to Square Off. Scottsdale-based Alliance Defending Freedom, a self-described Christian law firm, believes Arizona's Civil War era near total ban on abortion should be state law. By the end of this year, the Arizona Supreme Court will hear arguments in what could be a landmark case, and a decision could come down in the middle of the 2024 election campaign. What's the potential impact on Arizona women and 2024 election year politics? We're back with Christine Jones, an attorney and former Republican candidate for governor, and Roy Herrera, a Democratic election law attorney at the law firm of Herrera Arellano here in Phoenix. A lower court decided that Arizona's ban on abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy is the prevailing law. The 159-year-old ban, however, has remained on the books, though inactive. Roy, how would a return, quite a return to the Civil War era ban affect Arizona women and families?
Well, I think a return to that law would mean basically an outright ban on abortion, right, across the board. And I think it would affect, I mean, there's sort of the political answer to this, and there's the healthcare angle. On the healthcare angle, it's enormous impact to women and the choice that they want to make with their doctor. But from a political perspective, and I've been in politics in Arizona for 20 years at this point, and I've always viewed the state as majority pro-choice. I think that the majority of people in the state are pro-choice, and I think they would be outraged by returning to a Civil War era ban on abortion. Right now we're at 15 weeks. I think there's going to be a ballot measure that would go further than that. If the state Supreme Court were to return us back to the 1860s, I think that's only going to help Democratic pro-choice candidates as well as the proponents of that ballot measure.
Christine, where do you think the abortion ban should be set?
Well, look, I'm not on the Supreme Court, and we have some stronger voices there, Justice Bullock and some others that are originalists, and I think will interpret this conservatively. But if you have a rule that supersedes a prior rule, I think that rule probably stands. So the 15-week ban, at least in my perfunctory reading of this, probably is what the law of the land is today. But I'll give a cautionary tale to the Republicans now, similar to what I gave before. If they push this and they start prosecuting doctors who perform these services, nothing will guarantee this gets on the ballot and gets passed and expands abortion rights, to Roy's point, more than taking that to the extremes. And it could even be the single thing that tips the legislature over to the Democrats, because there are very few people, even in my conservative circles, who think an outright, absolute ban with prosecution for doctors should be put in place.
And let's just continue along those lines, because right now there is a statewide ballot initiative in the works. Signatures will be gathered very soon to get on the ballot that would expand reproductive rights likely to the 24-week Roe standard, I believe. Is this case truly a gift to those folks who want to win that?
I think so.
And to Democrats who want to win the legislature.
I think so. I mean, because if you think of the timing, the state Supreme Court's going to hear this case in the fall, I would assume. We're going to get a decision early next year, I assume. So this is all going to happen in the middle of signature gathering for that ballot measure, so it's only going to help there. And then, of course, in the middle of an election year. And we've already seen in 2022 that this issue, the U.S. Supreme Court's decision, helped the Democrats. And I think if it was a decision, again, where the state Supreme Court takes us back to the 1860s, it's going to help Democrats.
Now, I want to point out the decision will be made by what I've come to call the Ducey Court. Remember, he expanded it from 5 members to 7. And now 5 of the 7 justices were appointed by former Republican Governor Doug Ducey, a staunch anti-abortion conservative. If this were the U.S. Supreme Court, we might have a good idea of where these justices fall on the issue. Do we have any idea of where these 7 justices might fall?
Well, if it were just about Ducey's political appointees, we might. The problem is with the U.S. Supreme Court, they look at constitutional issues with the U.S. Constitution. This is less about a constitutional issue and more about an interpretation of a case that came down from the Supreme Court. So I can't posit what they would, maybe you have a better idea, but I can't really posit what they'll say, because it won't be politically motivated, at least not for the justices that adjudicate with integrity. And I think that's what we have in those 7 people.
Roy, your take on that?
I mean, I agree with a lot of what Christine just said. It's really hard to prognosticate, and I'll also add, I think it's harder to prognosticate than the U.S. Supreme Court, because I just view the justices on the U.S. Supreme Court as much more political actors. And although this is the Ducey court, there are a number of, I think, considerate Republican judges on that court. Not all of them, I would say, but some. And so I'd be very curious to see how they approach this case, knowing the gravity of it.
It's going to be a landmark. Christine Jones and Roy Herrera, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.